Hi Jane, welcome back. How are you?
I'm brilliant, thank you, Nikki. And how are you? It's good to be back.
Hot. And the temperature is rising in the north, so I think it's even hotter down south.
Yeah, it's hot down south. It's hot and muggy. The sun's going to shine tomorrow.
Yes. And let's hope there's a bit of breeze with it.
Yeah.
But no, it's all good. Are you busy?
Yeah, I am busy. Busy, always room for more. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed that over the last couple of weeks, things have been changing. The challenges that dentists and team members are expressing and seeking help for has changed as people have gone back to work, and maybe the reality of practice, maybe the reality of their practice is beginning to sink in.
I think so. And I don't know about you, Jane, but I think it's really, having had this time out of practice and then regrouping and having to reframe ourselves, it's really magnified issues that might have been in the practice pre-COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had lots of conversations with associates that initially contacted me and said, I want to leave dentistry. And when we unpick it, it's not that they want to leave dentistry, they just don't want to go back to delivering dentistry in the way that they were doing it from early March.
Yes.
And they want to do dentistry the way that they felt they were taught to deliver it. They want to do dentistry in the way that they want their patients to receive it. And there's this, and so having had this period, people have had the time to reflect and say, I just don't want to go back. I can't do that again. And yes, some of it is legislative and some of it is to do with the rules and regulations of the NHS. But I think much more of it is to do with values and culture, because there's that expression that I'm sure you've heard and I'm sure you've said to many clients: people don't leave a job, they leave a toxic environment.
They absolutely do.
And a toxic environment is one where we just don't fit. There's a mismatch. So, yeah.
I absolutely agree. And I remember hearing a quote, which has always stuck in my mind, and reflects exactly what you said, Jane, about a strong culture, having the right people in the mix, about you don't build a business, you build up your team to build.
Absolutely.
And you build your people. They're your key asset, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're your driving force in the business. They're going to drive it all for you. So it's getting the right people in the right positions on the pitch with the right attitude, who are all focused on walking away with that trophy and superseding the competition. And if you've got one person who's not playing the game, and they're not in the right position, or they're not trained to play that position on the pitch, you're on a losing streak.
And I think that what you said there, Nikki, is so key. When you said about walking away with the trophy, this is all about our outcome. Is that what I recognize is that there are many businesses, dental practices and wider businesses, because I work outside dentistry as well, where the business owners, their business is the most valuable asset that they will ever own. But they give it less attention than they do to their car.
Yes.
And they haven't thought about what the culture is that they want to create. They haven't thought about what are the values, but not only what are the values, because values for some people, they go, oh, that's a nice word and that will look great on my marketing copy. But that's not what values are about. Values are about what do we mean as behavior, because integrity is important, and our patients are very, very smart. They've got antennae. And what they're sniffing out for is integrity. And if our marketing copy says one thing, or what we say as clinicians says one thing, and our behaviors and the behaviors of our staff say something else, there's no integrity.
Okay.
So when you talk about building a team and building a business, and if we were building a house, we build the foundations.
Yes.
And if you've ever watched a house go up, the builders spend way, way, way more time digging the foundations and putting in the foundations, and the walls and the windows and the roof, it takes no time at all.
So true.
And that's what, if we hope to have a successful business, whether it be a dental business or any other business, the best time is the time to invest building the foundations, which are understanding and sharing the culture and the values and what our outcome is. Where's our vision? Where are we going? And that's where that's the important stuff.
Absolutely. And you know, we're both so passionate about this, Jane.
I know.
I think very much, you know, we've been talking about it previously, is your recruitment process.
Yeah.
It's absolutely vital.
Yeah.
It's pivotal to the whole process, because if you get the wrong person in your business, it's like throwing a grenade into it.
Absolutely.
Fireworks go off.
Absolutely.
And actually dealing with that day in, day out is absolutely exhausting.
Absolutely.
We've lived and breathed that ourselves, haven't we, Jane? And
we have
learned from my mistakes massively. And that is why I'm so passionate about what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. And out of
I
that,
didn't know either. I didn't know at that point.
And model it's just like a triangle.
Yeah.
That the pinnacle is results, and that's what we're going for. We're going for the results, but we can only get the results if we've got the right actions.
Yes.
And the actions require us to recruit team members who have the right ARSE. So yes, recruit on their ARSE. Look at them when they come in. And what I mean by that is, A stands for attitude. R stands for resources and resourcefulness. S stands for skills, and E stands for experience and education. And of those, the most important letter is the A, the attitude.
It is.
Other than our recruiting excellence, I've never seen a recruitment process that gives somebody the mindset to say, well, what do I want? What is essential as far as the attitude that's concerned?
Yes.
Future team member. What is a nice to have? It's a bonus, but it's not essential. But equally, what is absolutely a deal breaker? And if the person has got this, no chance.
Yeah.
So we've got to find a match to what is our culture, what are our values, and define our ARSE, define our attitude, rather than accidentally recruiting somebody and then discovering it all goes wrong. Because it's very, very difficult to, particularly when somebody's been with you for 2 years, it's very difficult to get rid of somebody who technically is doing their job, but they're doing it with a bad attitude, and it's the attitude that destroys it.
Yeah, it
just can't bear being around them.
Yeah, exactly. Jane, have you ever seen that bit of research that Harvard University did a few years ago in and around attitude? Well,
which one?
What we looked at was the top 100 companies, most successful businesses globally, and drilled down into why those businesses were so successful. And it was down to the people. And when they drilled down even further and analysed all of that, they came up with what they called the triangle of success.
Okay.
And basically it was down to those 3 elements, which are in your ARSE, which was attitudes, skills, and knowledge.
Yeah.
So, but what just sort of resonates with me is when, in most recruitment situations that I have seen in practice, the practice manager and principal recruit on knowledge and skills. But what the research showed was the success of those businesses globally was only 45% was down to the skills and the knowledge of their people. 55% of the success of those businesses was all about attitude.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is that skills and knowledge can be taught.
Exactly.
But attitude, the chances are, is that those attitudes have been defined by the time that person is 7.
Yes.
And yes, we can change attitudes if we're involved in personal development and we get into stuff like NLP, and I know you're into that, and I know that some of your other contributors into that. That when we start getting into NLP, yes, we can change beliefs and we can change attitudes and behaviors, and we can change them dramatically. But in the main, they are established by the time somebody's 7 years old. So unless a business owner, a business manager is skilled at belief change, attitude change, they need to know what they're dealing with. And so one thing that we also know is that when somebody's under stress, they revert to type.
Mm.
And this period from the end of March till now has been really stressful. And people have been showing sides of themselves which are maybe not the best version of themselves. They've been in a freeze, flight, or fight mode.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about that. But how useful would it have been if we'd known that up front?
Absolutely. Do you know what I find when I'm consulting, I don't know if you do, Jane, is when you're in the recruitment process, what people are fearful of doing is recruiting on attitude and characteristics and traits because they feel they're being discriminatory. But that is just such a key part of the recruitment process, to see how people behave and how they're going to fit with your culture. And actually, that is what CQC is looking for.
Absolutely.
As part of the well-led key line of inquiry.
Absolutely.
You're building a strong culture that's going to sustain your business. So it's all about having those right people. So personal specifications, and I don't know what you use in your recruiting for excellence package, but there's certain tools and techniques that you can use that are not discriminatory if you use them in a systematic way with every applicant.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing is that the business owner and the manager, but I am going to lay a huge amount of this at the business owner's door, and I know that they're busy and it is their business, is investing the time to reflect and define what are the values, what is the culture, and if that is true, what is the attitude? And also let's recognize that the attitudes that we need in different jobs are different.
Mm-hmm.
So for a bookkeeper and a dental nurse, you really need somebody who's a completer finisher.
Yes.
And if your bookkeeper's hidden in an office and just loves communicating with the numbers, they don't need to have that personality where they're ebullient and enthusiastic and that people orientation. But when you're recruiting for your reception, you absolutely need this. So that there is culture, values, and attitude that fits in with the practice and also with the roles.
Absolutely.
And we need to understand those.
We do.
And I really don't see how it is discriminatory.
No. I mean, corporate business have been doing this for years, haven't they?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Recognise this decades ago.
And it's not just corporate business, it's the forces.
Yes, the forces.
And,
yes.
And if you were, a friend of mine went to work for a large American company that deals with all sorts of adhesives in all sorts of different situations. And the first stage of their interview was 4 days. it's not done by accident. It's done by design.
Exactly. Recruitment by design.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Jane. And, you know, for me, you know, going back to what you were saying about practice principles being the accountable one, which they are, it's their business.
Yeah.
For me, I always look at it, it's almost you've invested all that time and energy and money into your business. And it's like, then that's your baby. It's like handing your baby to somebody you don't know. You know, if you've recruited a new practice manager, it's like giving your baby away to somebody to raise and instill those values and you know, the purpose into, to mold them as a young person. It's the same with your business, isn't it?
Absolutely. So this whole thing about values, culture is not a one-off thing. It's not a, oh, we're going to have a meeting on values and culture. We've got a tick, therefore, and we've got our notes written up, so CQC will say we're well led. No, that's not what it's about. And it's about, how do we do this every single day? How do we do this moment by moment so that everything is driven by our values? There's a quote by Walt Disney's brother, and I just think it's fantastic. Walt Disney's brother, Roy, and he says that once you know what your values are, every decision is easy because you've got a plumb line.
Exactly. And you can reel yourself in if you feel that little devil on your shoulder opposing the little angel on the other side. You know, when you have that plumb line, it brings you back into focus, doesn't it? So you're absolutely focused on your values.
Absolutely.
And how you behave in and around that.
Absolutely.
And that's the same in business. So
absolutely.
It's essential to get the people who have the same values, who are going to fit in.
Absolutely, because you can't pretend it, you can't fake it, because it will, when things get tough, people's true colours will come out.
They really do, particularly in a crisis, which is where we are.
Absolutely.
You know, we're not through it yet, and there's still all that fear in the mix of the future, of the unknown. You know, we need to be strong and be able to pull together as a team. And
what I think is really exciting now, and I do believe it is exciting, is that people, you and I, people like us that are talking about this, and it's out there, is that I'm also getting increasing numbers of associates, nurses, practice managers, hygienists that are saying to me, Jane, how do I find the perfect practice?
yes.
And we're using the same approach, is, well, okay, let's get clear about what your values are.
Yes.
So it's a two-way street. And yes, and it's so much easier for everybody concerned if they know what their values are. Mm-hmm. And let's not delude ourselves that associates are getting choosy, quite rightly, because many of them have been treated really badly in this period.
Absolutely.
Many of them have been treated exceptionally well. And it saddens me that those really, really good practices that have treated people well, we don't hear about those so often. It's not sexy news. People like to dwell in the awful stuff, but there are some people, that many people, that are treating people well.
Yes.
But yeah,
I just want to go back to what you've just said, Jane, because it's a really pertinent point. I feel very much, you know, when I'm talking to particularly young dental professionals, nurses, associates, when they go for a job interview, their perception is this practice going to want me? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? And they're just dying to get the job. But actually, if that environment isn't right for you, you need to have done your research. You need to have found out as much as you can about that job, about that environment, who you're going to be working with. Yeah. For you, it's a two-way process, isn't it? I think, and I always advise that interview should be a two-way process. So
absolutely.
You should be asking many questions at the end of your interview as that you've been asked. So firstly, you show your interest and your understanding, but you're finding out if that is right for you.
Absolutely. My personal belief is that it's not about one interview.
No.
It's a process. So whilst we were talking about corporates and the forces, so their selection criteria may take days and months. And I think that the same is true within dentistry. If we're going to have a really good candidate, and we're going to get the right candidate, it's not a quick fix, knee-jerk reaction. We've got to be considered, and maybe it is about taking somebody out for dinner. Maybe it is about that person coming into the practice for a number of days, doing some work, putting in some patients, interviewing the patients, but equally that the candidate coming in and interviewing the team members. What's it really like here? Sitting down, and what's really going on in the staff room? Are people sitting around and texting one another? I was in one practice and I was just shocked to discover that there was such a atmosphere of fear that members of the team were communicating by texting one another across the staff room at lunchtime.
Shocking. Isn't that awful? Really is. Terrible. And gosh, how demoralizing to work in an environment like that and get up every morning feeling that fear and knowing that that's the environment that you've got to drag yourself through every single working day. Goodness me.
And then it's a spiral of decline.
It is. It is. And then when one person sets the precedent and decides to leave, everybody bails out.
Absolutely.
And actually, I've seen that locally fairly recently. Within 5 months, 17 members have left.
Yeah, and there is that work that was done by Tuckman. Are you familiar with Tuckman, storming, norming?
Yes, I am.
Absolutely. So the storming phase will always, always, always happen if there's ever a change in the team dynamics, whether you bring somebody in, somebody leaves, whether there's a change in role, whether somebody's got a promotion, somebody's got a demotion. If there's any element of change in the team, there will always be a storming phase.
Yes.
Now that storming phase may last for 30 seconds and you don't notice it, which in a great team, that's what we would expect. But for some, they go on for months and years, and people are leaving, and there's that spiral, that turntable doorway, people in, people out. And that's a really difficult recruitment situation for a practice manager, to bring people into a storming phase, which again takes us back to values and culture. Let's establish this.
Yeah, absolutely, Jane. Do you know, I could talk to you all day about this.
I know, it's exciting, isn't it? And I think we find it exciting because it's like we've seen the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. You and I have got the stripes, we've got the scars, we've been there, seen it, done it. Between us, we've made every recruitment mistake that is in the book.
Absolutely.
And it's only through that and recognizing that there has to be a better way, yes, that you and I have sorted out.
Yes.
You're talking about research here. I'm talking about research. We've read books. We've tried different things. We've explored things. Yes. And we've developed systems and strategies.
Exactly.
That we can say to a practice manager and a practice owner, look, we've been there. Yeah. Let's take you through the shortcut. Let's make it easy for you. You don't have to go through the pain we went through.
Exactly, Jane. Yeah, and I would just urge anybody who's watching this to reach out to Jane and I. If you need help from either of us with any of this, then we're here to help.
Yeah.
So Jane, Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I always love talking to you.
Oh,
We go off on a bit of a rant, don't we?
we do.
We're so passionate about what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that you and I both just want to make practices run much more smoothly, harmoniously, profitably. We just want to make dental practice great.
Absolutely, we do. Here, most definitely. Anyway, Jane, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Till next time.
I know we need the next date in the diary, and we need another date with Sue.
Yes, we'll get that sorted.
The two wise birds and their little fledgling together.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyway, have a lovely weekend, because we're nearly there, aren't we?
I know we are, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, have a lovely weekend, and yeah, just take care, because it is super duper hot.
I know, I can't wait to take my cardigan off now. Yeah, what have you got planned for the weekend?
Oh my gosh, my house is on the market, so I've got I'm still in the marital home, so I've got this enormous garden, and it is like the fourth bridge. You know, once I get round, I'm back to the start again. So I just spend most of my weekends gardening. But we've discussed this before. I'm now an avid gardener. I've got every plant app on my phone that you could imagine, and I really love it. I really love it. It's been a whole different perspective for me.
Yeah.
Over lockdown. So that's what I'm doing. And then Sunday, family barbecue. How about you?
Well, like you, I'm going to be spending it in my garden. So it's great. I'm harvesting. So I'm probably going to be making some jams and chutneys this weekend as well, because there is an abundant harvest. Yeah, it's just great. So love it.
To see the fruits of your labour as well, isn't it? You know, I'm starting to pick a few beans and tomatoes.
Oh, I know. Oh, runner beans. I suppose I've been eating mine for about 10 days now, and I love this time of year. That from now until September, runner beans every night.
Yeah, love them.
Yeah. I know. Brilliant. Okie dokie. When do you want to speak again, or do you want to email?
I'll just stop the recording, Jane, and then we'll